I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and this is the season finale of the 2025 Argentinian Carcassonne Online League. This is the inaugural season, so it's a special event. We are about to witness quite some high-level Carcassonne. And before I'm going to explain what is going to happen in 7 minutes or so, just wanted to note that there are actually 3 Argentinian Carcassonne leagues. Well, technically it's one league with 3 divisions. There is the elite division, which we're about to watch, so we're talking experts and masters. And only the top 8 players in the country are participating there. You see all the screen names on the screen. I'm going to tell you about the players a little bit later. But there's also the Platinum division, where strong players and some expert players participate, and the Open division called the Gold division, where newer players participate. So we can see how Argentina is growing their competitive Carcassonne scene quite rapidly. Following their success on the international scene, they have managed to get the 3rd place in the 2025 Copa America with their national team. They have several masters on their roster, 2 of which we're going to see today. So the way this league works is that it's a round robin between top 8 players, and we are now in the 7th and final round. This is week 7, so there is 1 match per week. Everybody plays everybody in a best of 3 encounter, and this is what we have right now in the tournament table. The main contender for the title is Maticarrizoc, who has won all of his encounters except one. He lost 2-0 against the former captain of the national team, Ale Rosario, and has so far defeated everybody else. But their greatest challenge is going to happen right now, as they will be playing Big Nacho 610, who also is the highest rated player in the country and the player with a very high peak rating internationally. So as you can see, 785, almost 800 rating, and this is their 2025 peak, so they're now in really good shape. And these here little badges signify their wins in King of Carcassonne tournaments, which is an international tournament in correspondence Carcassonne or turn-based Carcassonne. They have participated successfully in the 2024 Carcassonne Champions League, so a very strong player. But in the tournament table, they're actually not doing all that great. They have won 3 encounters and lost 3 encounters, and so the best that they can do theoretically if they win today is the 2nd place in the league. Now for that they're going to defeat, they're going to need to defeat Maticarrizoc, and also hope that the results of the other match that we're going to watch today between Academia 647 and Webbi end up in a favorable way for them, so that they can manage to eke out a win on tiebreakers. From Mati's perspective, though, if Maticarrizoc wins, then they will be the sole player with 6 wins in 7 matches, and they will clinch the title. The 2 other players in contention are Academia 47 and Webbi. Webbi, of course, is the other active master from Argentina with a peak rating of 733. I believe there's also a 3rd master who's not on the list, who may not have been active in 2025, Santiago Iniguez Santi Blazer. Not sure what their peak rating is. And they're not part of this here list of 8 players. So in any case, so what Academia 47 and Webbi need to do, first of all, they need to hope to win their duel so that they can also get 5 wins in 7 matches, and they need to hope that Maticarrizoc loses to Big Nacho so that Maticarrizoc also stays on 5 wins, and then either Academia 47 or Webbi are likely to win on tiebreakers. But it also depends on how exactly this the match score is going to go, because each match is played as a best-of-3 encounter. And it matters a lot whether you win with a score of 2-0 or 2-1, because the total number of game wins and games lost is the main tiebreaker. So let's say if maticarrizoc loses 2-0, which is not unthinkable given who their opponent is today. So they're going to be on 5 victories, 2 losses. They're going to have 10 game victories and 6 game losses. And let's say if webbi wins 2-0, they're going to have the same stats, except they're going to have 10 games won and only 5 games lost. And for Academia 47, it's kind of the same deal. If they win 2-0 against webbi, they're going to have 11 games won and 6 games lost. And of course, the same number of matches won as maticarrizoc. So basically what Academia and webbi need to hope is that Mati loses as bad as possible and that they win as big as possible. But when it comes to the title, everything, of course, is in our current tournament leader's hands. In 1 minute, we're about to start the games. We're going to try and follow both of them at the same time as far as possible, but we will prioritize Mati's game, simply because if they win, then everything is in their hands and we might witness the end of the first season quite early on, if they even manage to win in a short amount of time. The time format is 15 minutes per game per player, so quite similar to what they have in a bunch of other international tournaments, such as the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship. And we're about to start in probably 30 seconds or so, so just wanted to quickly show you the tournament player pages. Maticarrizoc currently rated 544, so an expert rating, 4,000 games of experience. All 4 players that we're going to feature today are also members of the national team, or former members of the national team at the very least. And most of them, in fact, have been featured before. Big Nacho with a very solid, almost master rating of 685, a total of 1,500 games of experience. They've had a really good couple of seasons for them. webbi also, and the other Argentinian master with a solid rating of 662, 4,700 games of experience. They should have some sort of an advantage against Academia 47, who is now rated with an expert rating of 523 and has 3,700 games of experience. So let's see if the games have already started, and yes, they have. So Maticarrizoc, fortunately for them, is the starting player here. They have already managed to score 4 points for this here city. They're going to be playing the red meeples. Big Nacho is playing green here. Now they get quite an interesting tile, and they might want to start either getting this city back or maybe consolidating this here city for green. There's a very vulnerable red city here in the center, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Nacho chooses to go here or here, start another city, and maybe start doing some blocking. The strongest move that I see available for the player with the green meeples here actually is something like this. Oh, that's interesting. I was thinking something very similar. I was thinking going over here and just letting the city cap like that. So building their city indirectly and going for a 6-point loop. Very similar idea here for Nacho. They go for the 6-point loop, but they leave the city cap out in the open. And the idea is that it's a bit of bait. So if Mati takes the city cap, which they did, and I believe they kind of had to do, then Nacho can create a very, very vulnerable square next to Mati's city and block it. And in fact, they can do it right now, but they choose not to just because this tile is so good. They're trying to invade Red City over here, and look at this. Immediately Red gets a tile that consolidates their city completely, so that's very fortunate for Red. Nacho is probably now going to finish his road and try to create an additional restriction to the city. And this is exactly what happens, but now there's still plenty of tiles that fit over here. So, despite the scoreboard lead that Nacho currently has, Mati's position looks pretty good. Nacho's going to have some problems as well, as this square is quite unpleasant. Now, he gets the tile that can actually unify his 1-point city with the longer and more powerful 5-point city of red. But the problem is, if he goes here, which he doesn't, and I can understand why this is the case. If you were to go here, this would expose a platform for red to go over here and join the city again, winning a 2 versus 1 majority. So that's why this move from red here was so annoying. And red is now trying to play against this here city. So Nacho is in a bit of a pickle. He tries to score aggressively, takes the only available road and goes for a 2-point road. Now, this connection here is still live. There's still 4 tiles that fit into the square, 3 triple cities, and most notably 1 quadruple city, which actually would even enable a city takeover by green, sorry. Quite unlikely, but still a possibility. And the first monastery of the game goes for Mati, and Mati now even finishes an 8-point city, which is 4 points better than the 4-point city that Big Nacho just finished at the bottom. Roughly equalish position, but definitely an advantage for red as the side with the monastery, as the side with the greater city threat. Mati now with a triple city tile, something that Nacho needed over here or over here, but not a really good square for red to use it, and red just uses it as a sort of blocking tile, even starting a new city as well. This meeple could suffer in some scenarios. Or there's some scenarios how this meeple and this meeple gets tied together, which would sort of solve the problem of this vulnerable city by green. Green just continues his road, puts teeny tiny pressure on the monastery, which not going to mean that much. Nacho probably about to finish his road over here, or maybe even start to loop road over here. We're going to see what the play with the green meeples is going to do in a second. Hi, Crafty. Hi, Ian. So Nacho does finish his road, temporarily being ahead on the scoreboard. Mati now, with a variety of options, could either continue this here city at the top, could maybe just take 2 points and drop a city cap somewhere. He chooses to do this, which does make a lot of sense on one hand, but I'm not sure how much I like that move, because it sets up some nasty opportunities for Nacho. So first of all, the big threat that I see from Nacho's perspective is the quadruple city tile, plus a triangle tile that would fit here. There's still 4 of those remaining, which goes with the takeover of this here big city, plus a 4-point road. So this is not a super likely scenario. It's definitely considerably less than 50%. But from Mati's perspective, as somebody who has a very good position, maybe giving your opponent these sort of chances is not necessarily the safest choice. Now, Mati could, in theory, use this city to fight for the big ruin again, but these here tiles are quite good. The shield, the city cap here, so ideally red actually wants to finish a 10-point city or a 12-point city all by himself. Red develops the monastery in a bit of an unusual way. I would definitely prefer this curve over here, preparing another monastery, since there's still 5 of those remaining in the deck. And Nacho now has to show some creativity. So many interesting moves here available for the Argentinian player. So here's what I would consider. I mean, we could actually try and develop the city at the top, maybe going here, or on one of these squares. This is certainly a very good option that Nacho has chosen, taking 2 points, going for the Pintatron maneuver. Yeah, now it very works. So setting up another 4 points and also making this here red square very vulnerable. Red, of course, gets a wonderful tile to continue pursuing this here city. And Nacho now, as a result of his quick points over here, is now 9 points ahead on the scoreboard. And that's why Green is not really worried about Red potentially finishing his city. Green is just starting a new city by himself, although this move by Red is quite annoying, starting a city off his own and making the square very vulnerable, because this here tile is the last of its kind. There are no more starting tiles, no more city caps with a road. So let's say if Mati now goes here, which is a real possibility, then if he places almost anything over here, then this square will be blocked, this green meeple will be trapped by 3 points. But does Mati even go here now? Because there's a counter threat. Exactly, so he chooses to go over here because the threat here was, as a result of this straight line, Green could get a Dorito tile or a triple city tile and go over here, block this square, and then kill off this here Red's meeple. And that's quite an interesting situation. Because Red was forced to react to this threat, this means that this here square will be empty for longer, which means that Green will have a longer time to try and draw a tile that fits into this here square. So by creating a threat on one side of the board, Green is indirectly protecting his city on the other side of the board, and there's even a chance for Green to now block this here guy completely. Now, Green with a Dorito tile faces an immensely interesting choice. So option 1, and the option which I think Green should play here, is going over here, preventing the city from being blocked, and now creating the threat of completing a 12-point city. Certainly a nasty, nasty threat that will require attention from Mati. The alternative is to bet all the game on the quadruple city tile and go over here, take 4 points for a road, add a shielded tile, and just wait for the quadruple city tile in the center. Seems a bit unnecessary to me, and Nacho agrees. Possibly even could have played the same move just a little bit earlier, and now definitely a misprioritization, a big, big, big mistake from Mati. Mati should have, it seems to me, not have restricted the city, but instead use the curve to defend a city of his own, because this here restriction is not as powerful as this here block. Now, this here block is a complete block. There's nothing that fits into the square because all the starting tiles are out, so this here guy is lost with just 6 points, so that's a huge gain here for Nacho. Whereas this here square, even though it's vulnerable, there's still a considerable number of tiles that fit into the square. And also, interestingly and quite ironically, that this move made it harder for Mati to fight for the city, because Mati could have placed this tile over here if only the square were occupied, to try and get himself a Dorito tile and equalize the city, but now it ain't gonna be possible. So instead, a tile discard here for Mati, but now a second monastery for Red. So Red is doing quite well for himself, also setting up a road. And does Nacho have the idea here for going for a semi-Ukrainian technique? Now, this move would be pretty annoying. Starting a new city over here, controlling 2 monasteries of his opponent with 1 meeple of his own, and drastically limiting the number of tiles that go into this square that could help Mati free up 1 or both of his monasteries. An alternative is to maybe go over here and try to quickly draw some Dorito tiles here and here and here and run away with the medium-sized 6-point city or so, but Big Nacho instead plays what I think is a rather weak move, and actually I'm a bit surprised. I think it's a very, very weak move for the caliber of this player. It has some sort of purpose. It accomplishes that it creates an additional blocking platform against this square, but it appears to be just too slow. There's still many, many tiles that fit here. Nacho now with the triple city needs to face quite an interesting decision whether to go here and connect to the city and restrict his own bit, or maybe just go here for 3 points and try to annoy his opponent a little bit. Instead, he goes at the top, tries to go for maximum value, 2 points for the road, 2 points for the city. This city is still technically completable, although it's kind of hard to do. So let's see what Red is going to respond with. Nicholas saying how it is less than 50%, isn't it exactly 50%? Referring to something I said a few minutes ago about the chances So the reason why it is less than 50%, because when we're talking about the probabilities of the successful unification of this city, we're not talking about just drawing this tile. Green drawing this tile that fits into the center, of course, that's a 50% chance. But in addition to this, green also needed to draw this tile, so it has to be less than 50, and also green needed to dodge the possibilities of red going here with the triple city himself just to mess with this square a little bit. So in this position of the chances are 50%, because green managed to consolidate over here and they're betting pretty much everything on the quadruple city tile, and they still have a solid chance of winning the game even if they don't manage to get the quadruple city tile for this here city takeover, just because of the current scoreboard lead. Green can still finish this city over here. Green has this lovely long road, but because green didn't find the idea of limiting these two monasteries, red managed to score really well here, get a meeple back, and now creates another monastery spot, and they capitalize on it. So a really unpleasant turn of events for green, despite the fact that green must enjoy these here 12 points at the top very much. They're still 5 points ahead, but Mati completely live in this game. Nacho with a Dorito. I love this combination of words. I will never get tired of it. So a Carcassonne player's first instinct is to go over here, hoping for a flower-shaped city. The one problem with this is that this is the last Dorito of the game, or the penultimate Dorito of the game, so there are not really many tiles remaining to finish this. Both dividers, or one divider rather, however, it is in the game, so this setup might be, in fact, worth it. Let's just recount the tiles. So they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All 10 Doritos are indeed on the table. So if we go here, from Nacho's perspective, we're only setting up the last splitter tile, which doesn't have that much value because we have a good use for the splitter tile here anyway, finishing an 8-point city for ourselves, 4-point city for our opponent, and maybe even dropping a farmer for 6 points. So Nacho chooses not to do that. They just take a 1 point for their ruin, and they want to find a stronger move a little bit later. Oh, thank you so much, Nicola, for joining the channel. And for the remainder of you, consider a channel membership if you want to support Carcassonne live streams and use meeple emojis. And look at this, Nacho does get the splitter tile, gets himself the slightly better city, drops his farmer for 6 points. Mati now gets himself a farmer for 9 points. This is pretty close. I think that red still has chances despite being down on the board. Now, red is definitely going to need the quadruple city tile and then something else. Probably a couple of city caps to score a little bit and get some meeples back. So this is the start. Nacho takes a 6-point field at the top, which is the highest scoring feature available. And Mati actually, maybe instead of going over here, they could consider just going over here and trying to take an 8-point city with a different city cap. And look at this. They should totally do this. There are quite a large number of city caps available. They do something different, which is also quite interesting. They start a field instead. And they also set up another monastery here. Now they take 4 more points, but they expose a vulnerability here. Will Nacho be able to do something about this? And they're not able to do something about this, but Nacho, of course, got the quadruple city tile, and look at this lovely, lovely ruin. Now, surely this will make the play with the green meeples cruise to victory unless Mati finds something absolutely spectacular, and they get seemingly a good tile, but not really. Ideally, they wanted to get a city cap first to fight for this big ruin and then try to connect over here, but they do this anyway? Although this move doesn't really do all that much, because there's nothing that fits into this square. I wonder if there was an alternative available, but not really. There's no way to fight for this big city just because all of the city connection tiles are out. Remember, there are no Dorito tiles to fit into this square. There are no triple city tiles to fit into this square. This ruin is worth 18 points or something, and I believe red just going to need to think about the next game in this best of 3 encounter. So Nacho now gets a splitter tile, which is, of course, a wonderful tile to have. They have so many options. They could go here and drop a farmer and make it impossible for Mati to draw a monastery. This actually does look like the move to play, because you really want to take away this here threat. Instead, they go for a farmer, which also makes a lot of sense. Yeah, they're trying to equalize over here, and what does poor Mati even do? Yeah, this is a very smart move here from Nacho, because from Nacho's perspective, there was the city cap that could enable him to fight for this here 9-point field, but there are also 2 monastery tiles still available. And in fact, from Mati's perspective, there's really not all that much that we can do. Yeah, because think about this. I don't know what the 3rd tile remaining is, but we do know that 2 out of the 3 remaining tiles in the deck are monasteries. So we're going to be drawing only 1 tile from red's perspective, which means that green is bound to draw one of the monasteries and bound to connect over here. So if we go over here, it's not going to be much of a restriction of that square. But what we could do, we could go over here and spend our last meeple on a farmer, and then get to monastery, and then enjoy ourselves a 12-point field. That would be nice, of course. But then we also want to go here, and drop a farmer here, and expand this here field. And this would be what? A move which is worth already 10 immediate points, because we get 3 points extra from a city by turning a 1-point city into a 4-point city. Then we score twice for each of these farmers. Okay, that would be a 9-point move, actually. So this might be more productive. Let's say we go here. Our opponent places a monastery here, connects to our field. We get another monastery for 8 points over here. There's still plenty of time to make this calculation, and that's why Mati correctly figures that there's really not all that much that we can do in this here area of the board. We just play the highest point scoring move available to us. And that's it. Nacho gets themselves a scoring tile, which they can use to do a variety of things. So they could go here, that would score them 7 points, but that would restrict this here square a little bit. And if they draw the field monastery instead of the road monastery, they would not be able to connect over here. On the other hand, 7 points are 7 points. So let's say we go over here. That is 7. And then with the regular monastery, we go over here in our next move. That's 5. So this would be a 12-point sequence for us. An alternative is that we just score quick points here. We score 3 points from Nacho's perspective. And then we get another monastery here. We meeple the monastery with score 5, and we also equalize a 3-point field with a 9-point field. So we get 6 points extra. And that would be a 14-point sequence overall. So in fact, going over here is a little bit more precise for Nacho. And with 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock, I'm pretty sure they're going to find this idea. Let's just calculate this again. So 3 points here, that would be 1 point for the ruin, 2 points for the road, right? Then on the next move, we go here, we get 5 points for the monastery, and we get 6 points by equalizing a 3-point field with our opponent's 9-point field. That's a total of 14, so a bit of an imprecision by Nacho, and instead they even make something much more high risk. I wonder if that was necessary. Maybe they're just having fun. Oh, never mind. They are getting a curve, but then this begs the question. I do have to apologize for you all because I missed completely the remaining curve. And I thought there were 2 monasteries remaining, whilst there in fact was only 1 monastery remaining, because I think I missed this guy over here or this guy over here. So apologies for this. So with the tiles remaining, this actually makes Nacho's play completely perfect, because by going over here and taking over this 12-point field, they had a 100% chance of connecting. I know some of you must have been screaming this at your screens. Yeah, they would have been able to connect regardless with either the road monastery or the curve. Of course, it didn't really matter that much because Nacho had the game under control basically from the moment when they took over this ruin. And 15 points for Nacho is their lead. Oh, actually, I'm going to need to adjust the board a little bit in a second. Now we're going to start the second game here. And I'm going to just double check what the score is in the other encounter. Let me just move all this a little bit up. Yes. There we go. And let me just move this here, score a little bit. And we'll be back shortly. Oh, so 0-0. So the first game on the other table is still going. And this, in fact, is something that should make Webbi and Academia quite hopeful. Since Mati lost the first game, this is exactly what they want. Oh, never mind. It's Webbi who is winning against Academia 47. So they already have 1 game finished there. And Nacho is winning against maticarrizoc, which is going to be reflected on the scoreboard soon enough. So, in the second game, Red is the starting player. But it is Green who has the lead on the scoreboard with 8 points. Red, however, still has the better position with a 4-point road, with a lovely 4-point monastery controlling the central squares of the board. An open city cap. Now they finally make it to the scoreboard. Straight line for Nacho takes 2 points whilst also harassing Red's little city a little bit. Red has a couple of interesting options here. The more traditional move and probably the best move is just to go over here. But this is also very interesting. So we take 4 points. But we also harass our opponent's city a little bit. And we create another monastery square next to us. So that's the beauty of this move. And now it's a 7-point square. And we'll be able to capitalize on that. No, not yet. Now we get to continue our city. Nacho is either going to finish their city over here or maybe go over here and try to put some pressure against this square. Knowing Nacho's style, they're probably going to go for the more aggressive approach at the top. But going over here and even dropping a farmer is not the worst idea in the world, and I agree the farmer is correct. It, of course, is worth only 3 points, but with just one straight line, and a monastery is going to connect to all these squares with 3 completed cities for 9 points. Notes the color change, that Mati is red and Nacho is green. Actually, no, I think this was also the case last game as well. Let me just move around a little bit more. What an interesting move by Nacho. I actually love it. We're going to see a second farmer, am I right? So the idea of this move is simply to take out this monastery spot. And with the second farmer, we take an iron grip on what is going to be a quite powerful field, it seems, and that's why Mati chooses to start fighting for it immediately, dropping 1 farmer, but he's also going to need to drop another farmer, and there isn't an obvious platform here to do that just yet. Green takes out a city cap, starting a new city. Mati is now trying to put pressure on this here square. It should be quite easy to defend with a curve like this. Although I would not be surprised if Nacho has an alternative here. He does indeed defend. It, of course, limits the square a little bit, as horse tiles are no longer suitable and starting tiles are no longer suitable, but still plenty of Doritos and city caps to go around. And a complete block of this square is now no longer possible. Mati has a curve. The standard move in this position is just to go over here, continue the monastery whilst also putting pressure on this square. It's also quite annoying. It sets up one of the 6 remaining crossroads. So let's say if we go here by red, we can then later do this, score 3 points for a road, and create an attacking platform against this here square. The downside of this move is that it kind of seals the field a little bit tight, and there's not going to be an obvious platform to fight for it, but we can always create the platform a little bit later as the field grows somewhat more. Alternatives for Mati include just equalizing the road here, which is what they go for. But Nacho probably now going to try something nasty. So I'm looking at this here move, scoring 3 points. Oh, no, not that move. I think it's an imprecision here by Nacho. It looks like it's annoying. It looks like it's blocking the square, but it just allows so easy for red to consolidate the monastery with extra value. I think it's a miss here by Nacho. So many players tend to think that any sort of restriction against your opponent's monastery is good, but some of these restrictions allow very neat cover-ups, like here, 3 points plus setting up one of the 6 remaining curves with extra value. This is now very good for red. And this here situation gives red a chance to win the game without having to fight for the field. So let's say if this here farm belongs to green, it's going to be 15 points. Well, red is going to score 12. 9 for the monastery, 3 for the road. And this is almost 15. If red manages to equalize or block this here city at the bottom, red is actually doing just fine. Nacho chooses not to develop their city at the bottom, which I probably have an issue with. It was quite safe to do so. But it seems to me that green is waiting for explicitly 2 Doritos and nothing else. Green with a straight line and not that many options. I guess continuing our road makes sense. It does make the city slightly more vulnerable, but it's not that easy to take advantage of. And Mati is going to start a new monastery, which with the abundance of the meeple that they possess, makes a lot of sense. And a monastery in return for Nacho. Unifying or almost unifying all the fields, and a great tile and a nice choice for Mati, breaking Nacho's city here. Of course, still plenty of chances to complete it, but in most scenarios, Nacho's going to need 4 tiles. I guess the minimum is 3, but it will be 3 city caps. So if you want to use Doritos, we have to go here, 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 here. This would also give back either connection or blocking opportunities. So this city is not a threat in the midterm, and it's quite a lot of work that Green needs to do in order to turn the city into a threat again. Green develops his monastery, and Mati now makes a move which is quite interesting. I don't like it strategically. Now, the idea here is to use Red's meeple majority and fight for the field, and it could work very well. So he now plays the city cap over here. The idea is, of course, to get another city, drop a farmer, and so on. The problem is that Nacho can easily go exactly over here. This is very smart. This eliminates this problem. And all Red has done is given a point to Green and also dropped many, many more city caps in this field, making it almost mandatory to eventually fight for it. So, even though Red's efforts were admirable, what Red managed to accomplish as a result is just narrow the scope of his possible win conditions. Now it will be much, much harder for Red to try and win this game without the field. A very nice setup here for an 8-point city with one of the 2 remaining extenders here by Nacho, but a threat of a farmer has now been renewed, and this is truly, truly annoying to deal with. I'm not really sure what Nacho can even do here. I see a couple of ideas, but there's no good way how we can block this here farming attempt. Because if we draw something like a straight line and we go here, then we suddenly expose this here vulnerable square in the monastery. So let's say we go with a straight line here, and we don't allow Mati to finish the city and drop a farmer. But then Mati's going to get a curve, go here, block our monastery, and drop a farmer here anyway to connect all the way from the outside. So now, Nacho's position, I would say, is considerably worse. So what do they need in order to win this game? Since the field is growing in importance, the number one thing that you need in field fights is meeples. So from Nacho's perspective, I wouldn't really go for quick points over here, and I wouldn't really bother too much with trying to develop my city just yet, as there are better tiles to do so. I would be choosing between 2 moves. Either finishing this road at the expense of the vulnerability of this square, or maybe separating the 2 roads over here, hoping to trap Red's meeple in the future and just getting a meeple back in this here area. And this move is probably my favorite, even though it's a bit counterintuitive. It also leaves a 6-point city out for grabs. But because Red will be so keen on finishing this city and dropping farmer, most of the time it is in fact Green that is going to take advantage of this 6-point city. And this is exactly what Green does. This is a counterintuitive move. It is not easy to find. It is a brilliant, brilliant decision. Mati now needs to choose whether to go for the natural move, which they're probably going to go, finishing the city, drop a farmer, or to take the 6 points. But this leaves more time for Nacho to try and do something about the square. Now, they get a city cap, and it's now very tricky. There are several options here. We could just still ignore this threat, and maybe go over here, try to create the threat of completing this city in the long term. We could go here and drop a farmer potentially, trying to get a 3 versus 2 majority. And it's not even the craziest idea in the world to triple down on the field, go here, finish Red City, and drop a farmer like this. Nacho finds an even better decision. This is so much better than all of my ideas. This is just absolutely brilliant. This accomplishes so many things. We get the farmer, and we get the city threat. And this is an unblockable field connection with extra value. There's still 4 curves available to fit into the square, which translate to a 94% probability of success. And we can even in the future threaten the completion of the city. This square is still reasonably safe. Red is now trying to fight for the field over here on the right, whilst also renewing the threat of getting a city cap and dropping a farmer. And that is why an excellent move again from Nacho, sacrificing some monastery points just not to allow Mati finish the 6-point city and drop a farmer. Finishing a small city with a city cap and dropping a farmer is what I like to call the greatest threat in Carcassonne. So most of the time, especially with a field is this big, it's worth sacrificing 2, 4, sometimes even 6 points just to not allow your opponent execute this threat. And now suddenly Mati is in a bit of trouble. They are 10 points ahead on the scoreboard, which is nice, and they can recover these here meeples in theory, whereas this meeple is going to take a while. But it seems to me that this field is big enough, combined with this here threat of 8 points and getting a meeple back, that Nacho might come on top, unless Mati, of course, equalized the field. Now, the threat of completing the city of red on the right has been renewed. So what do we do about this? Do we sacrifice points again as Nacho? Do we go here and try to block some farmers and maybe even block this farmer in the future? Or do we take 3 points, hoping that our opponent does not have a city cap right now, and then we'll be able to get a straight line and drop here? And no, Nacho says that this is super, super urgent. So we're sacrificing 3 points again, just not to allow Mati continue the city. And by the way, it pays off because this shielded tile would have fit here super, super nicely. Instead, red will need to sort of discard it, really. Not many good uses at all. Maybe red can go here and just put a bit of pressure on this city. Or, even better, I think here, protecting the square a little bit, setting up one of the 2 remaining triple city tiles for the retrieval of this here meeple. This is probably the move for red, even though it's a bit counterintuitive because it looks restrictive, but it does appear to be all the rage. Red unfortunately doesn't find this, and it's quite a big mistake. Generally, most of the time, you don't really want to be continuing your monastery with a city tile going into this road. Because in most boards, and this board is no exception, there is a shortage of city plus road tiles, plus red already needs city plus road tiles in 2 other spots. So the chances that red will manage to fit this square, to fill the square, is actually surprisingly low. In the meantime, Nacho is being very methodical about the field block. Now, this here field connection is very difficult as there are only 2 tiles available to fit into this square, and Mati already needs one of these tiles over here to finish the city. So the win path that I see for Mati here is to maybe just abandon the field idea, try to just get some points by getting this here meeple back as soon as possible, and then maybe try to block this square and try to cut the losses. Some quick points for Nacho. For Mati, it's still 10 points ahead on the scoreboard, and now a starting tile for Nacho, which is a great, great tile for them. A variety of options possible. I guess we could go here, start a new city. No, that would be bad. Honestly, we could just go here. And we could create the threat of immediately completing the city. That would be very blockable. But so what? At this stage of the game, a threat is a threat, and I'm loving this here move. In this particular instance, it is not going to work out. But now actually Mati has a choice. Yeah, so Mati of course has to block the city. There's no question about that. But this is a city plus road tile, which red needed in 3 different places ideally. And instead, because green created the threat, red was forced to use a good tile just to neutralize that threat. And finally, a curve is drawn by Nacho to get the 3rd farmer on the field. They have pretty much ironclad control of it. Now Mati gets of course a meeple back, so it's getting a bit interesting. 12 points extra, still Nacho in a very good position with 15 points on the field over here, and still neither side has drawn the last triple or double city tile rather that fits here. This here meeple is completely blocked by red at the expense of a city cap. Red now needs to make a decision whether it's worth going over here and freeing up the monastery of green. Now this would be an 8-point move. Well, that would be an 8-point city rather for red. The downside is that it would give 1 point in meeple back for green, and also it would put a city in green's farm. So that would be a net 4-point move actually. So maybe we don't even go there. There's still 1 more tile and 1 tile only that can fit into this square, but if green gets that tile, they can finish the monastery, start a new city, but that would not be finishing a new city. Now the last remaining tile that fits into the square is a tile like this. A triple city, but with a shield. There's also a wild idea for red actually. So if red does go here and gives a meeple back for Nacho, then there's the idea of using this here new patch of green, getting a straight line, dropping a farmer, and trying to connect over here. Thank you for letting me know about the noise in the microphone. Hopefully that became better now. Do let me know if that is the case. Hi, Max. I've gotten a little bit carried away with the commentary, so I hope that the message about the microphone issues was not too many minutes ago. Yeah, Mati is really weighing this decision. I think a big part of this decision is really just asking yourself, is my 12-point lead enough? Can I actually win without a farm? And he says, maybe not. So he does take the points, and he gives the meeple back to green. Green is unperturbed, just taking quick points. But Mati, I was gonna say has the chance, but it's so unfortunate for them. This is the perfect tile, but they drew that at a very imperfect moment. Ideally as red, you want to drop the farmer here first and connect later. Now this is the last tile of its kind, so they kind of have to go here if they want to fight for this field. But then we're out of platforms where we can drop a 3rd farmer. And that's a big issue here for red. So the question is it even worth going here? Now only 7 points on the scoreboard doesn't seem all that much. Green has some incompleted features here for like 12-ish points, which sort of equalizes these monasteries. Now red has a little bit extra, but the field has 7 completed cities on it for 21 points, so Nacho should be around 10 points ahead here. And Mati with a very nice winning idea. Yes, absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful, beautiful idea. We just go for a counter field and we gamble. It is just a brilliant decision. So this is a 6-point move, and if red manages to draw a city cap before green, that will be 11 points extra for them. 8 points for the completed city, and 3 points for the farm. So Nacho, I think, is missing a little bit. They should have treated this threat a little bit more seriously, in my view. Now, they go for 2 points, which might work out, but a move which I intuitively prefer more is just equalizing the farm. Going over here, dropping a farmer, and hoping for a curve. Big city tile for Big Nacho. Probably gonna go here for a 5-point ruin. It seems that it might be the appropriate time to get rid of one of his 2 meeples, but maybe not. Because if red manages to successfully complete his city, then green absolutely has to go over here. Both players in a bit of time trouble. It's going to be a complicated endgame, but he goes for the ruin, maybe a little bit prematurely, and Mati now is going to take 8 points over here. And Nacho now will have to fight for this big field. They get a straight line, and they don't really have a choice. They drop a farmer over here for 3 points. Now they have 2 routes of entry into the field. And Monty now probably just going to score a little bit. They get 3 points for the road. Finally get the Monastery meeple back. And they have 2 meeples in hand and 2 moves to play. So Mati can absolutely win this. Nacho now blunders? Is that a misclick? It has to be a misclick. They're typing in their chat to explain, yes, of course. Nacho rushed this move. They meant to go over here. Oh, this could be tragic. Instead of uniting the farmers, they actually make it harder to unite the farmers for themselves. Nerves. This is the price of nerves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's still actually a couple of curves. So it's probably not going to cost all that much for Nacho. But we have to be precise here. I think we don't even bother connecting to the farm, no? I think we take 2 points for the ruin first. And then we draw a curve and we connect to the farm after all. So this is precision from Nacho, not panicking too much despite their misclick. 1 tile remaining for Mati. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think, if I didn't miscount again, both of the remaining tiles are a curve. So the correct move for Mati here is to just discard the tile. Just put it anywhere and don't meeple it. Whatever, here. Then Nacho has to get a curve and go here or here to connect to the farm. And this will leave a 5-point road back for red to claim on his last move. Victor Besson is asking, did I hear a misclick? Oh, yes. This sort of stuff happens even at the highest level. Yeah, very smart decision here from Mati. Despite having only 40 seconds on the clock, they did manage to solve it. Solve this endgame and score 5 points for the road. Oh, this should be close. I think Mati probably might have it. Despite the field of green being very, very big. I honestly don't know who won. Has to be... The difference has to be like 5 points. Within 5 points. well, almost. So 6 points extra for Mati, and just absolute brilliancy. And I think Mati is very close to clinching the title. Because even if they lose the third game, which they might not lose, just having this one win in this game will result in them having a very good tiebreaker, which may be insurmountable. And based on what the players are saying in the chat, it actually is probably insurmountable. So again, this here move is absolutely the move of the game. Red gambles with the farmer, finds the city cap to score 8 points before Green manages to do so, and manages to outscore Green in other parts of the board. Immensely entertaining game. Now let's see how the other players are doing. Now webbi 1-2-0 against Academia 47. So webbi was very much rooting for Mati to lose this one. But no dice. So Mati, 65 tiles away from their first ever online national title. And they are the starting player yet again, which is certainly fortunate for them. But it is again Nacho who is the first on the scoreboard as a result of scoring these here 4 points. Mati now has an interesting decision. He can either finish the city on the left or continue his city indirectly on the right whilst also helping his road, but instead he chooses to prevent the greatest threat which Green possessed at the moment, namely finishing this 8-point city. Now, Green can still use this divider tile to finish this 8-point city, but this would also finish in 4-point city for Mati, so maybe it is not the most profitable use of a splitter. And Nacho will certainly be considering his options. Now, first of all, 4 points are 4 points are 4 points. This is not a bad move at all. We might even drop a farmer if we go here. But we could also go here and try to prevent Mati from drawing 2 Dorito tiles and running away with a 10 or even 12 or even 14-point city, depending on the number of shields on the triangle tiles that Red could potentially draw. Still, no super enticing moves. So Green goes with a move that gives him the most immediate benefit. 8 points extra for Green on the scoreboard. Mati now drops a farmer to equalize, whilst also indirectly protecting his city from abuse. And this was very smart. If not for this curve, Nacho would not have hesitated to go over here, start a new city, and severely restrict this here poor red guy. Instead, a green city is safely pointing to the right, indirectly continuing his road, and Mati is now fighting for the field. Almost losing the previous game because Nacho managed to claim a big field early on. Mati is now very well aware of this possibility and chooses to prevent any field minorities. He will be looking to go over here with Monastery. He's now also looking to do some blocking over here. But Nacho with a blocking move of his own, oh, this is extremely annoying. Actually, this move was definitely a big mistake by Mati. The idea to try and break this here square is absolutely admirable. The issue is that it makes his own city exceptionally vulnerable. There's only one starting tile available, and with any curve, any city cap that Green can go over here, Green will severely restrict this here red meeple. From Nacho's perspective, this certainly is a very fortunate tile, but I think green is not here greedy enough. In this position, what you're actually supposed to do as green, and believe it or not, green is supposed to place a meeple on this 2-point road. The reason for that is this here 9-point monastery square available for either side for grabs, regardless of who draws the monastery first. They of course are going to go over here and take 9 points, so Nacho might as well prepare himself 3 points extra. So it does appear to be a bit of missed value for the play with the green meeples. I'm not sure if it's going to matter that much. In the meantime, Mati, with a nice protection move, managed to correct his mistake of creating an unnecessary vulnerability, now managing to fill it. And they even have a chance of completing this here city. Not a great tile for Nacho, though, as they are not able to sufficiently restrict either of these here critical squares. Certainly not in a way that would be dangerous for red at all. And I guess the best that they can do is just go at the top and start a new city pointing left and just trying to decrease the quality of this square, and they do find the best move. They do exactly just that. Dorito tile for Mati. Oh, that is quite dangerous. So we have some developments here. Mati successfully finishes 2 roads for 8 points. And there's still technically a chance of getting the last starting tile and finishing his city. Note that Mati still has a horse in this race. I mean, Nacho has a horse in this race. If they win, I believe they have a decent chance of finishing in second or third or something like this. We'll have to look at the tiebreakers later. But the point is that Nacho does need this win for the overall league standings. 18 points extra on the scoreboard. Could have been 17 extra had Green meeple this year road. So a 9-point move, of course, is absolutely wonderful for them. A 12-point move would have been even better. But in the meantime, Mati manages to protect this square. So a 50-50 chance to draw the last starting tile and finish a 14-point city, and maybe even get himself a 5-point road. And based on the scoreboard difference, and the fact that Nacho now drew yet another monastery, it seems to me that the starting tile must be necessary. But look at this. This was the absolute best tile that Mati could have drawn from the deck in this instance. So first of all, he finished a 4-point city in his field, so that's 7 extra points. And these here road pieces make it so that it is not possible for Nacho to use this platform and attack this field. And in fact, this was the only tile in this deck, other than, of course, the starting tile, which Red needs over here, that allowed this sort of field structure. And now Red doesn't even need to develop his field. He just needs to make sure that this field sort of stays intact. 12 points is a pretty good investment for a meeple. But a nice, lovely sequence for Nacho. Look, continuing his monastery and city indirectly, now claiming a new road, now potentially going for an 8-point loop road like this, and also trying to get to Dorito tile, finish his monastery, create some city threats. Yeah, Green is playing this really well. Ale Rosario, the only player who managed to defeat maticarrizoc this season, is saying that Mati is already mathematically the champion. I thought so, but I just wanted to double check after the tournament. Just by tie. So if Mati loses this game, Mati is going to win by tiebreakers his title. But since they now, early enough, finished the 14-point city and even meeple the 5-point road with last starting tile, they equalize the score and they might even win the title outright. Thank you, Ale Rosario, for also explaining about the potential relegation to lower divisions for some of the players. Now, we're going to look at all of that after the game. For now, let's just follow the action as Nacho successfully finishes in 9-point monastery and still has threats to finish the road and the city. The city looks nicely protected. Mati is now trying to block it. Also goes for a 6-point farm, a little bit too early to my liking. Nacho, with a quick point tile, has really two options. Option 1 is just get this meeple back. Option 2 is scoring 3 points and then trying to pursue the construction of this road to greater lengths in the future. 3 points indeed have been gained by Nacho, but it's quite a volatile move. Honestly, I quite dislike the orientation of this road, but actually it doesn't matter because there's nothing that fits into the square anymore. So in fact, this here road structure can create certain blocking situations. So let's say if Mati gets himself an extender and goes like this and tries to free up his city, then Nacho can draw a Dorito, go over here, limit the city toward the starting tile, and since there are no starting tiles available anymore and all 4 of them are on the board, this would be a loss of a meeple for red. So these 3 points are an indirect option of maybe making life a little bit uncomfortable for this red meeple. And another part of Green's logic is that Green doesn't really need a meeple anytime soon. They have the meeple advantage regardless. They have the advantage on the scoreboard. Red, of course, has some options. Red can get this road meeple back. Red has 12 points for this field, 6 points for this field, so a lot of field points. But Nacho is just going to try and score. I'm pretty sure he's going to simply try and outrun his opponent. Triple city tile for Mati. Several options that I can see. This one is pretty good. So the idea of this move is to try and limit some farming platforms. But probably a stronger way of doing so was just placing this tile here directly and blocking this here tile. Now Nacho creates quite a significant threat of finishing this here city. Mati with a very, very risky meeple over here. If Nacho gets a Dorito, then of course he's going to go over here and block the square as described above. So this was the setup by this here tile. But at the very least, 6 points from this here city have been already transferred to red scoreboard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 3 triangle-shaped tiles available. So Nacho has plenty of combos, how he can go here and here, using the 1 remaining triple city tile, or maybe just using a Dorito plus a city cap. So certainly the threat of finishing this city is something that will need to be addressed. Red is now trying to avoid the block, building a little bit to the right. I actually like this decision. With a city cap plus a Dorito, Red can threaten some significant things. Mati gets an extender to the unclaimed part of his city, so Nacho will want to draw a city cap and try to equalize, but he doesn't. Instead, he gets a monastery, And he could go here with the meeple or without. I'm not sure which exactly move gives him the best winning chances here, as Nacho's lead has dwindled to only 8 points, and the road monastery has been drawn by red. It's a fantastic tile for red. He goes here and finishes his road, but I wonder it was better to go here and get 3 points for road, because this would also get this castle into red's field. Now, red's idea, of course, was to create a vulnerability against this square, but Nacho draws pretty much the best tile in the deck by setting up the completion of the big city. Mati, of course, very fortunately for him, draws a Dorito tile, and that, I believe, is the penultimate Dorito tile available in this deck. Now, one city cap away from finishing a significant 18-point city, if I'm not mistaken. Nacho with a city cap, probably looking to develop his monastery, although I don't like dropping a city cap in my opponent's field. 2 points are probably worth it. Then we also need to add into our consideration the fact that red already needs a city cap over here. But a move that green must be calculating here is a restriction move. So if green goes here, does he restrict options for red? And the answer is not really, because there are not many city plus road tiles available. In fact, if we go over here, it doesn't restrict red's option at all. So instead, Nacho tries to create a blocking threat or a connection threat. It doesn't work out, as red immediately draws a tile to connect. 18 points for the city, now a 20-point lead on the scoreboard. Should be uncomfortable. And I believe now Nacho actually has to finish this city in order to win this game. Because green is still 18 points, red is still ahead, 18 points on field, 12 plus 6. Nacho has 10 points for monasteries and 10 points for this here city, but this shouldn't be enough. So the way I see it for the play with the green meeple is that we just need to get some meeples back ASAP, unless we want to do something even more radical. Actually, you know what? Going here and meepling this road indirectly is not crazy. And maybe this even is the best move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's still 3 curves available. So maybe Nacho had to risk a little bit harder, going over here for a 6-point road setup. Instead, Nacho chooses to get a meeple back immediately. And this has some issues. So for Mati, it's going to be pretty easy to go over here, score 3 points, and create an attacking platform against this here city. So Nacho probably needs a Dorito tile right now, but he does not get it. And so what he needs to do is now go here and protect this square. The one remaining Dorito is a road Dorito, I believe. So what we need to do is score 2 points with the road side facing like this. And Nacho very quickly finds the most precise of his possible moves. Mati would have blocked already the city, but he can't. He might try to block it regardless, but then it is not necessarily the best move either. Maybe from Mati's perspective, we can just outrun the city perhaps. We can go here for a 6-point farmer, or we can go here and expand the potential of this 3-point farmer, try to control this city cap and score 7 points extra if we can. 6-point farmer is a decision for Mati. Straight line for Nacho, not many possible accomplishments. The best move that I see is just scoring 2 points in this here area. And I struggle to see how we can set up something more significant. Maybe we can go here scoring 3 points and setting up a 5-point road, presuming that Mati is not going to have enough time to block. Craft Giraffe is asking, wasn't it better to point the T cross to defend the city like an actual T? That way a field invasion was possible. Well, the idea of this move, the reason why I like it, is that it limits blocking options for red. With this road end pointing up and this road end pointing up, red, in order to create a further blocking platform from above, would need specifically a road tile. So a city tile or the last remaining monastery is not going to be good for red, and that was the consideration. A field attack is still possible. Let's say if red were to get the straight line and choose to go over here to create the problem regardless, to create the blocking platform regardless, then Nacho can still get himself a curve, go over here, drop a farmer like this, and then connect to the field like that anyway. Speaking of connecting to the field, Nacho decides that it is absolutely time. He goes on the right, tries to get himself a curve to equalize the field while also scoring for the monastery, but it ain't gonna matter as the last Dorito has been drawn by Mati, who is going to drop yet another farmer. Nacho is of course going to drop a farmer of his own, or rather connect his existing farmer, meepling the 2-point road. Mati could actually even try to reclaim the field by going over here or over here and hoping that the last tile is suitable for him. Ain't gonna matter, as the lack of completion options for this here city should be decisive. Nacho gets the curve, the last curve of this game. The high scoring move, of course, is to go here, add 1 point to the monastery, prolong his road by 4 more points, and claim this 3-point field with the last meeple. We see now that Mati, unfortunately, played quite imprecisely the very last move. It was better to go here and connect to this field that way. That connection was actually guaranteed, but it ain't gonna matter that much. This was a 7-point move regardless. Mati is saying that he got all the possible tiles, trying to be gracious in his victory, but this is actually not entirely true. This city, of course, was fortunate, but then again, Nacho got the coin flip for this monastery, and Red made some very good moves. Red was proactive with his farm, which helped a lot. Red found a way to restrict this here city, so it was a fairly balanced game. And Green was ahead for a long time. Green overall played this very well, I think, especially the idea, like the build-up, the exact choice of tiles for this 9-point monastery was very beautiful from Nacho. The creation of threats over here and blocking attempts over here just ended up not quite working out. So we will look at the tournament situation, how the highest rated player in Argentina might even be facing relegation in the first season of the National Carcassonne League. But for now, I have to congratulate Mati, who won the title not by tiebreakers, but completely clean, defeating the highest rated player in Argentina. They now have 6 wins in 7 matches. Their only loss to Ale Rosario. They defeated everybody else. And now it's time to look at the tournament table. In the other match, Webbi defeated Academia 47, so the higher rated player won in that one. Webbi will be taking the 2nd place in the tournament, and now let's look at the standings. I'm not sure they're going to be updated yet. They're partially updated. So, Webbi will be in second place, and Mati, of course, in first. They have 6 wins, 13 games won, and 6 games lost. So even their tiebreaker is better than Webbi's as well. Herchu is going to claim the 3rd place, as their tiebreaker is 1 game better than Academia 47's. So if Academia 47 were to have lost a little bit less convincingly to Webbi, then Academia could have been 3rd. Nacho, they have 10 games won and 10 games lost, right? And so they have 3 games won, 3 matches won, and 4 matches lost. Well, they're still above Ale Rosario and on tiebreakers, right? And they're still above Nico on tiebreakers, so it shouldn't be really much of a problem for them. They are above Lord Trooper just simply on games. So what I need to find out is how many players exactly, if Ale Rosario is still in the chat, are going to leave the 2nd division. It is my current understanding that only the top 4 players remain for the next season, which is pretty rough. And 4 players... so they're not yet relegated. But I believe they must be forced to play relegation matches. If Ale might have to play against Nico 95, and Nacho might be playing against Lord Trooper. Is that the idea? Okay, so now... Oh, so now it makes sense. Thank you so much for clarifying. Hi, Ignacio in the chat. Commiserations for the loss, but seriously, very well played in some of the games. That was extremely entertaining to watch. Thank you, Hernan, as well, for confirming. And yes, the conditions are pretty harsh. So, okay, let me just summarize what you said in the chat. So, Nico and Lord Trooper are relegated automatically for the next season to Platinum Division, so the 2nd division. The top 2 players of the Platinum Division, let's actually see who they are for a second. Oh wait, we don't know because it haven't been finished. But yeah, so there's still some games to be played, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, quite a few games to be played, if I'm not mistaken. But so 2 players from the Platinum Division are going to join in the next season, and Nacho and Ale Rosario are not automatically relegated, but they will have to play a best-of-5 match against the 3rd and the 4th place finishers from the 2nd division, from the Platinum Division, for the right to stay in Elite. Very interesting system. Certainly the harshness of it makes it entertaining for spectators, a little bit less for elite players, but it's probably good. There's more rotation, there's more chance for newer players to climb to elite level faster. And in case you are one of these newer players, in case you're watching this from Argentina and you haven't participated yet, then be aware that the community in the country is rapidly developing. You know, there's these 3 divisions, and there's also the gold division as well for more of a beginner players, and just look at how many there are. So there are a couple dozen in the 2nd division, and there are several dozen over here. 24 players or whatnot. So make sure to follow the events. Try to have a look at the Carcassonne Argentina website and see if you want to try out your own strengths. Again, we congratulate the top 3 finishers. Let's see if we have the updated standings, but whatever. The sequence is like this. Mati first, Webbi second, and Hernan is going to be in 3rd place. And with that, we're going to be finishing our broadcast. Before we do, if you liked the spectacle, then make sure to meeple the like button for the algorithm. It is quite helpful. And in case you're here for the first time, consider subscribing for more competitive Carcassonne content like this. If you want to support the channel even further, there are some membership options that you can look into, and stay tuned for more tournaments. The next stream is going to be on Friday at the latest. We are going to meet for the finals of the Finnish National Championships. Actually, let's just have a look at that real quick. Between Naulerheim and Larpattori, so 2 Finnish masters, very high rated, with peak ratings of over 800 and 700 respectively. That's on October 3rd, Friday, 1400 UTC. Should be a lot of fun. That's a best of 5 encounter. And if something comes up in the world of Carcassonne, then we might even meet even earlier. So stay tuned. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'ma see you soon.